Preparations are underway as Tropical Storm Elsa closes in on Florida after making landfall in Cuba. We begin from Southeast Asia. Thai authorities are carefully monitoring air quality after a massive explosion at a chemical factory on the outskirts of Bangkok on Monday killed one person. The explosion injured dozens and damaged homes, while prompting the evacuation of a wide area over fears of poisonous fumes and the possibility of additional blasts. Evacuation centers have been set up in a school and government office. Firefighters brought the main blaze at the Mingdi chemical factory on Monday, but a tank containing the chemical styrene monomer continued to burn until today. Styrene monomer is a hazardous liquid chemical used in the production of disposable foam plates and cups. The chemical also emits styrene gas, a neurotoxin capable of immobilizing people within minutes of inhalation and can be fatal at high concentrations. Authorities say 62 people were injured. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Rescue workers dug through sludge and debris today, looking for the dozens of people who may still be trapped after that mudslide ripped through the Japanese city of Atami, killing at least 4 people. 24 people are still reportedly missing. However, officials are double-checking the numbers, as many apartments and houses in the resort town are second homes or vacation rentals. Initially, 147 people were unaccounted for, but officials confirmed that many were safely evacuated or were not at home. 25 people have been rescued, including 3 who were injured. 3 Coast Guard ships and several military drones are backing up the hundreds of troops and firefighters searching for survivors. And now to Surfside, Florida. Rescuers have resumed the search for victims of that collapsed condo building after the last of the building was demolished on Monday. 3 more victims have been found in new area of rubble, bringing the death toll to 28. The demolition has allowed crews into previously inaccessible places, including bedrooms where people were believed to be sleeping at the time of the disaster. Rescuers are in a race against time as Tropical Storm Elsa approaches Florida. Forecasts show the storm moving westward, but the area could still see heavy rains, posing a threat to rescue crews. And now, as Tropical Storm Elsa closes in on Florida, preparations are underway. On Monday, residents filled up and distributed sandbags as Governor Ron DeSantis moved to extend a state of emergency, now in place for 27 counties. Elsa is barreling towards the west coast of Florida after making landfall in Cuba, causing heavy rainfall and flooding. The Cuban government had evacuated 180,000 people, many taking refuge in relatives' homes or government shelters. Elsa swept through the Caribbean over the weekend, leaving 3 people dead, 2 in the Dominican Republic and 1 in St. Lucia. Moving on to other news, investigations are underway into the crash of a Philippine military transport plane, which killed at least 50 people. President Rodrigo Duterte traveling to southern Philippines on Monday to honor the soldiers that killed in the crash. Placing a medal on 6 Philippine flag-draped coffins, President Duterte telling soldiers and their relatives he is as sorrowful as they are. On Monday, Philippine troops found the last 5 dead from the crash. The C-130 had overshot the runway while landing at Jolo Airport on Sunday, slamming into a coconut grove and bursting into flames. Authorities rescued 49 military personnel. Investigators are now looking for the C-130's cockpit voice and flight data recorders. At least 1 other C-130 has been grounded as investigators determine the cause of the crash. Jolo Airport's runway is shorter than others in the country, making it difficult for pilots to land.
I commiserate with you. I am as sorrowful as you. And as Commander-in-Chief, ako yung pinanasasaktan. I am at a loss of words so that I will end up here. Or else I will end up crying also like you.
And meanwhile, in Russia, the wreckage from a plane that went missing today in the country's Kamchatka region has been found just 5 kilometers from the airport where it was supposed to land. Russian media is reporting that none of the 28 people on board survived the crash. The plane took off from the city of Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky, bound for the town of Palana when it missed the scheduled communication and disappeared from radar. The aircraft's fuselage was found on land near the coast, while other wreckage was found nearby in the Okhotsk Sea. The plane belonging to Kamchatka Aviation Enterprise had been in operation since 1982, with the company's director saying it was technically sound before taking off. In 2012, a similar plane belonging to Kamchatka Aviation crashed into a mountain while flying the same route. A criminal investigation into the incident has been launched. The Taliban has released video which it says shows Afghan soldiers surrendering in Baghlan province. The video, which shows a line of men in camouflage being embraced by others in plainclothes, was filmed in June, according to the Taliban. The surge of Taliban wins in northern Afghanistan has caused some countries to close their consulates in the region, while across the border in Tajikistan, reservists are being called up to reinforce the southern border. Nearly 1,000 Afghan soldiers have led the Taliban advances by crossing the border into Tajikistan. The Taliban has made relentless territorial wins since mid-April, when President Joe Biden announced the last U.S. soldiers and allied NATO soldiers would leave Afghanistan. Most have left quietly already, well before the announced deadline in September. And as U.S. President Joe Biden continues to pursue the withdrawal of nearly all U.S. forces from Afghanistan, after almost 20 years, the U.S. commander in the country and others say they are worried about Taliban advances. VOA's Michelle Quinn reports.
Is the Afghan government ready? That's a question many observers have since the United States and its Western allies left Bagram airfield last week. The strategically important post 70 kilometers north of Kabul, the capital, is now in the hands of the Afghan National Security Forces. And the Taliban, the militant insurgent group that held power in the country until 2001, is reportedly gaining ground across the country.
If you look at the security situation, it's not good. The Afghans have recognized it's not good. The Taliban are on the move.
In February 2020, the U.S., under then-President Donald Trump, signed a peace deal with the Taliban. But peace talks between the insurgent group and the Afghan government have stalled. Some Republican leaders have criticized President Joe Biden's timeline for the withdrawal as the Taliban gain control in key regions. Biden says U.S. and Western forces are leaving responsibly.
That we can be value added, but the Afghans are going to have to be able to do it themselves with the Air Force they have, which you're helping them maintain.
The U.S. says it will continue to provide economic and security assistance, and it may be able to influence the Taliban if the group takes over, according to Gail Zamak Lamon from the Council on Foreign Relations.
Has the Taliban changed? Most people living under Taliban rule say no, it hasn't. But there's no question that it understands the environment it's coming back into is very different than the one it left when it left power. And while it might have technicals and technical vehicles, it doesn't have technocrats. And it knows it needs engineers, doctors, and all of that to govern.
Despite reports that the U.S. is preparing emergency evacuation plans for its diplomatic staff, the Biden administration said Sunday that its embassy in Kabul will remain open. Officials say a contingent of U.S. troops will be left behind to protect the diplomatic mission. Michelle Quinn, VOA News.
And World News will be back shortly after the break with other top stories. And one of them is the Australian state of New South Wales will announce on Wednesday whether Sydney's 2-week lockdown to contain the latest cluster of coronavirus cases will be extended. Stay with us. Hello, good evening. You're watching World News from Metro Globe Network and we are live from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm Iqbal Himawan and here are our top stories.
Pak Presiden memimpin penanggulangan pandemi ini secara langsung.
Dari menit ke menit, ya, dari jam ke jam, Presiden memantau terus.
Mudah-mudahan akhir Juni ini, ya kan, itu baru minggu depan kan, berhenti dia, landai.
Medcom.id, a part of Media Group News.
Kesehatan itu adalah hal penting yang harus kita jaga loh.
Saat ini, teknologi pun ikut mendukung kesehatan.
Supaya semakin sehat dan bugar.
Bersama para pakar kesehatan, kami mengulas kesehatan yang berbalut teknologi.
Simak Go Healthy di Metro TV.
Untuk Indonesia dalam Newsline setiap Jumat jam 2:30 sore.
You're back on World News. Ruili, a Chinese city bordering Myanmar, is stepping up its efforts to fight against a third coronavirus outbreak after several locally transmitted cases were reported this week. Ruili, in the southwestern province of Yunnan, has initiated mass testing and imposed a lockdown to prevent people from entering or leaving the city unless they can prove the travel is necessary. More than 230,000 samples have been collected since Monday, and the Chikau border community was named a medium-risk area on Tuesday. 6 local cases and 2 asymptomatic cases were reported in the city over the past 2 days, according to the Health Commission of Yunnan Province. That marks the 3rd time Ruili has tackled a local outbreak of the coronavirus in a year. The large number of exchanges along the border at Ruili and Myanmar's difficulties in handling the pandemic have made it particularly difficult to control new transmissions. And Malaysia has imposed stricter movement restrictions on dozens of localities in its richest state, Selangor, and the capital Kuala Lumpur for 2 weeks as COVID-19 infections continue to rise. Under the 2-week order, people are restricted to their homes, with only one person from each household allowed to go out to buy groceries within a 10-kilometer radius, and a curfew starting at 8 p.m. Only essential services and factories producing food, medicines, and masks can operate. The country's senior minister for security says the decision to place areas of Selangor and Kuala Lumpur under the Enhanced Movement Control Order, or EMCO, came after the areas reported virus cases exceeding 12.1 for every 100,000 residents. Malaysia reported more than 7,600 new infections Tuesday, with Selangor and Kuala Lumpur accounting for more than 62%. Japan's Waseda University began coronavirus vaccinations for students and others on Monday as part of the government's effort to speed up its vaccine rollout, with the Olympics starting in just under 3 weeks. While Japan has made remarkable progress to vaccinate its population against COVID-19, the drive is losing steam because of supply shortages. Workplace inoculations, including universities, began in mid-June, with thousands of companies applying to vaccinate employees. But the government then indefinitely halted taking new applications for workplace and large-scale vaccination sites due to tight vaccine supplies. Japan's fully vaccinated rate of 13.8% is slightly above the world average of 11.3%. But that figure is low compared to the United States and the UK. North Korea's coronavirus lockdown has taken a major toll on its economy. Its leader Kim Jong-un has hinted at the humanitarian crisis. Some fear the situation could get much worse, as VOA's Bill Gallo reports from Seoul.
North Korea may be the only nation to claim it is COVID-19 free. But even it now admits a worsening pandemic-related crisis. Last week, Kim Jong-un vaguely warned of a mysterious, grave incident suggesting a major coronavirus lapse. He also recently acknowledged food shortages, comparing the situation to a devastating 1990s famine.
There's worries that there will be another arduous march type of situation.
The arduous march refers to the period of mass starvation during the rule of Kim's father, the late Kim Jong-il, which may have killed millions. It's impossible to say how bad the situation is now. There are no signs of mass starvation. But prices of food and certain luxury items from China have skyrocketed amid North Korea's toughest in the world lockdown.
People are hurting because of the closure of the border, because of the poor harvest last year, because your movements are restricted. People, particularly in the border region with China, aren't able to conduct their business activities, official or non-official.
Despite the crisis, North Korea has shown no urgency in getting coronavirus vaccines. VOA has learned that North Korea has not even completed the paperwork to get vaccines from COVAX, the UN-backed vaccine sharing group. It's not clear North Korea has vaccines from anywhere else either, puzzling observers.
I do wonder about it, because while you have some people, in the United States for instance, who refuse vaccines or masks for cultural reasons, it's not the same situation in North Korea.
North Korea's basic predicament is that it wants to keep the border closed to protect from the virus, but must open it to get vaccines. It's a situation that may not threaten Kim's rule, but will get riskier the longer it lasts. Bill Gallo, VOA News, Seoul.
Moving on to other news, the Premier of the Australian state of New South Wales will decide on Wednesday whether to extend Sydney's 2-week lockdown to contain the latest cluster of coronavirus cases will be extended. New South Wales has recorded 18 new locally transmitted COVID-19 infections in the latest 24 hours, while the city of 5 million people recorded 35 cases on Monday, the largest daily tally of the current health emergency. Last week, almost half Australia's population was locked down, with cities tightening pandemic restrictions due to clusters of mostly the Delta variant. But Sydney has had the biggest number of infections and will be the last to emerge from lockdown. The country's relatively low vaccination rate is blamed for strict measures being triggered by relatively small clusters. Hundreds of stores of Swedish grocery chain Co-op remain closed for a third day following a global ransomware attack on US IT software company Kaseya. Now, the hackers behind it are demanding $70 million in cryptocurrency to unlock the infected systems. Customers of Kaseya's network management system around the world were hit on Friday by what experts call the single biggest global ransomware attack on record. In Sweden, a pharmacy chain, gas station chain, the state railway, and even public broadcaster SVT were also among the businesses breached. Experts say it could take weeks for them to recover. The attack is being linked to the Russian cybercriminal group REvil, best known for extorting $11 million from the meatpacking company JBS in May. And coming up next on World News is our top entertainment news, where Will Smith pays for July 4th fireworks in New Orleans. Stay with us. Hello, good evening. You're watching World News from Metro Globe Network, and we are live from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm Iqbal Himawan, and here are our top stories.
Hari gini 2.000 bisa dapat apa? Kedelai hitam spesial kecap sedap kemasan 2.000 bisa dapat banyak. Nasi goreng, ayam bakar, seafood sampai cocolan. Wow, banyak banget. Kedelai hitam spesial kecap sedap kemasan 2.000 dari Wings Food.
Pencapaian media Indonesia sepanjang tahun 2020-2021. Asian Media Awards 2020 Bronze Winner. Penghargaan dari Badan Usaha Kemendikbud 2020. Penghargaan dari PT KAI 2020. Indonesia Print Media Awards 2020 and 2021. Penghargaan dari BNPB 2021. Penghargaan dari Badan Bahasa 2021. Indonesia Print Media Awards 2021. Gold Winner.
Media Indonesia, a part of Media Group News.
Kenapa sih kita harus berinvestasi di PIK 2? Ada 3 alasan utama. Yang pertama, lokasi PIK 2. Alasan kedua, setiap orang yang membeli PIK 2 dianggap sebagai pemegang saham. Membeli produk PIK 2 memang selalu untung karena harga perdana PIK 2 50% di bawah harga market. Alasan yang ketiga, fasilitas. Di mana fasilitas yang tersedia di PIK 2 jauh lebih banyak dari real estate manapun juga.
Media Group News mempersembahkan televisi digital terestrial pertama dengan jangkauan nasional, Magna Channel. Temukan di saluran TV digital Anda.
And in our top entertainment news tonight, director Richard Donner dies at 91. Will Smith pays for July 4th fireworks in New Orleans, and Sly Stallone turned 75. And that's wrapping up our show tonight on World News. Don't forget to watch us on Metro Globe Network. I'm Iqbal Himawan. Thank you for watching and stay healthy.
Filmmaker Richard Donner, who helped create the modern superhero blockbuster with 1978's Superman and mastered the buddy comedy with the Lethal Weapon franchise, has died at age 91. Donner died Monday in Los Angeles. For those of you who have never heard of him, listen up. Donner gained fame with his first feature, 1976, The Omen. A then unheard of offer followed, $1 million to direct 1978's Superman. Donner channeled his love of the character into making the film. In the title role, Donner cast Christopher Reeve, who was associated with Superman for the rest of his life. By the 21st century, the genre, that is, the superhero genre, was dominating the box office in the US and thriving overseas. The heads of Marvel Studios and DC entertainment producers of most of today's superhero fare both worked for Donner when they were starting out in Hollywood. Didn't you know that? I knew that. Tributes also poured in on Twitter Monday, including from Goonies star Sean Astin. Yes, sirree, Bob, the guy who played Thanos, was also in the Goonies. Donner followed Superman in 1985 with the kids' adventure classic, The Goonies. The Donner's company has produced such hits as Deadpool, The Wolverine, and the X-Men franchise. His films have generated more than $1 billion in box office receipts. In 1987, Donner cast Mel Gibson and Danny Glover as a mismatched police pair in the buddy cop action film Lethal Weapon. The film was a smash, spawning several sequels and a TV show. You will be missed, Dick.
And that's true. You will say. What's the quality of a good director?
Fireworks returned to New Orleans on Independence Day thanks to actor Will Smith. Smith picked up the roughly $100,000 tab for the pyrotechnics over the Mississippi River after learning New Orleans didn't plan a 2021 show. New Orleans canceled last year's fireworks because of the coronavirus pandemic. Smith was in New Orleans working on his latest film, Emancipation, which will tell the story of a slave, Peter, who escaped a Louisiana plantation and whose photo of scars on his back from being whipped exposed the brutality of slavery. He would also fight for the Union in the Civil War. That's something that Will Smith has never played before. Smith moved production of the film from Georgia to Louisiana in early April, after Georgia passed a new voting law that prompted a federal lawsuit, saying the overhaul was intended to deny black voters equal access to the ballot. That's racist. And last but not least, Rocky Balboa and Rambo both turned 75 on Tuesday, July 6, 2021, as actor, writer, and director Sylvester Stallone celebrates a landmark birthday. Happy birthday, Sly! Born Michael Sylvester Gardenzio Stallone in Manhattan's Hell's Kitchen in 1946, complications suffered by Stallone's mother during childbirth saw parts of the newborn's face paralyzed. An accident which contributed to the actor's signature look and speech patterns. Bet you didn't know that. During his early career, Stallone worked numerous jobs to support himself while trying to break into movies. He worked as a theater usher and a cleaner, and even starred in a softcore adult movie called The Party at Kitty and Studs in 1970. Bet you knew that. Numerous walk-on and bit parts followed until the youngster spent 3 days penning his most enduring hit, Rocky, in 1976. The movie, which saw Stallone star as title character boxer Rocky Balboa, was an international smash. It was nominated for 10 Oscars at the 1977 Academy Awards, eventually winning Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Film Editing. 2 years later, Stallone was back in the ring for Rocky II before taking on the role of another one of his iconic characters, Vietnam veteran John Rambo in 1982's First Blood. To date, Stallone, nicknamed the Italian Stallion thanks to his Italian heritage and muscular good looks, has appeared as Rocky in 8 films, including Creed and Creed II, and Rambo in 5, the last being 2019's Rambo Last Blood. Other memorable films during the 75-year-old's illustrious career have included Rhinestone, Tango and Cash, 1989, Demolition Man, 1993, and another action franchise, The Expendables, which has 3 movies to date. Happy birthday again, Sly.
Metro TV. Setiap saat, berita bertabur di ruang publik. Namun hanya media Indonesia memberikan yang terbaik, mendalam, terpercaya, dan mudah diakses di mana saja dan kapan saja. Media Indonesia Cetak, mediaindonesia.com, dan e-paper Media Indonesia layak menjadi referensi Anda. Media Indonesia, referensi bangsa.
Indonesia memiliki potensi ekonomi syariah terlengkap.
Bahkan kita diprediksi menjadi kiblat keuangan dan ekonomi syariah dunia.
Seperti apa ekonomi syariah Indonesia?
Bagaimana kita bisa mengubah dunia lewat ekonomi syariah?
Saya Zakia Arfan dengan ekonom sekaligus ahli dan praktisi keuangan syariah.
Saya akan membahasnya bersama narasumber terkemuka hanya dalam Syariah Economic Talk bersama saya Gunawan Yasni setiap Kamis jam 8 malam di Metro TV.
Kick Andy, setiap minggu jam 7 malam.
Indonesia tanah air beta, pusaka abadi nan jaya. Indonesia sejak dulu kala tetap puja bangsa.
Indonesia tanah air beta, pusaka abadi nan jaya. Indonesia sejak dulu kala tetap dipuja-puja bangsa.
Di sana tempat lahir beta, dibuai dibesarkan bunda, tempat berlindung di hari tua sampai akhir menutup mata, tempat berlindung di hari tua sampai akhir menutup mata.
Metro TV, a part of Media Group News.
Anda menyaksikan headline news, saya Iqbal Himawan. Karena tidak kuat menahan penyakit penyerta jantung yang diderita, seorang wanita lansia yang terpapar COVID-19 meninggal dunia di dalam kamar rumahnya yang berada di Jalan Petojo, Gambir, Jakarta Pusat. Tim relawan COVID-19 Kecamatan Gambir yang mengetahui peristiwa tersebut langsung diterjunkan ke lokasi. Korban bernama Yeni, seorang lansia berusia 58 tahun yang telah 1 minggu menjalani isolasi mandiri di rumah, diketahui karena terpapar COVID-19. Korban terpaksa melakukan isolasi mandiri karena tidak ada satupun rumah sakit yang menerima pasien karena ruang perawatan penuh dengan pasien COVID-19. Namun penyakit penyerta jantung yang diderita membuat nyawa korban tidak tertolong. Usai pemulasaraan dengan standar penanganan COVID-19, jasad korban dievakuasi ke TPU Rorotan, Jakarta Utara untuk dimakamkan.
Ada yang mau dibawa lagi?
Pangdam Jaya Majen TNI Mulyo Aji meminta jajaran RT/RW di kawasan DKI Jakarta untuk tidak membantu membuka jalan di dalam permukiman bagi kendaraan yang mencari jalan alternatif. Menurut Pangdam Jaya, dengan membuka jalan bagi pelanggar aturan untuk menghindari pos penyekatan PPKM darurat sama saja mempersilakan peluang masuknya COVID-19 ke dalam wilayah mereka. Untuk itu Pangdam meminta kerjasama jajaran RT/RW untuk mendukung penerapan PPKM darurat yang saat ini sedang diterapkan oleh pemerintah agar pandemi COVID dapat ditekan.
Kita perlu memberikan stressing kepada RW, kemudian RT, kemudian yang memiliki wilayah di perumahan itu supaya membantu, karena ini adalah demi kemanusiaan. Barangkali begitu, sisanya Kapolda.
Ikuti berita terkini melalui metrotvnews.com dan headline news berikutnya akan hadir 1 jam mendatang.
Kasus positif COVID-19 naik signifikan.
Virus novel corona saat ini sudah menyebar
di berbagai fasilitas kesehatan terjadi antrian. Jangan lagi kembali ke hari silam saat situasi dipenuhi dengan ketidakpastian. Jangan hancurkan harapan. Jangan sia-siakan perjuangan. Kita harus maju, bukan mundur lagi ke belakang. Waspada penularan COVID-19. Perketat protokol kesehatan. Orang-orang hebat.
Saya dapat skrip yang setebal ini, Selasanya saya sudah syuting.
Berprestasi. Pantang menyerah.
Mungkin bingung menentukan ini senyamannya apa nih, ahli, arsitek.
Akhirnya Bang Soyun menyerang tapi keluar dan akhirnya saya bisa memenangkan pertandingan seketika.
Mereka hidup untuk menjadi legenda. The Legend, setiap Sabtu jam 7:30 malam.
Good evening, I am Sarah Wayne.
And I'm Amanda Chininta. You are watching Asia Prime on Metro Global Network. We are live from Jakarta, Indonesia.
And in the next 2 hours, we have prime stories from all over the world.
This is Asia Prime.
The white flag movement is trending in Malaysia. But what does it actually mean?
Sydney is still on lockdown, and whether it will be extended or not will be decided on Wednesday.
China, France, and Germany agreed there's now a window of opportunity to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal.
We start tonight's story from Indonesia, where foreign ministers and Russia held a ministerial meeting in Jakarta on Tuesday, discussing bilateral, regional, and global issues, including vaccine cooperation.
Indonesian Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi says that Indonesia and Russia have been working to finalize a bilateral cooperation agreement on vaccines. Russia developed Sputnik V vaccine, which has received emergency use authorization in many countries. Officials from Indonesia's FDA have visited Russia in June to observe the Sputnik V production. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says the two countries have been observing the possibility to produce Russian COVID-19 vaccines in Indonesia. Minister Lavrov says Russia has the same stance with Indonesia on coronavirus vaccine regime, which must be accessible for all people and all countries. The two ministers also discussed on the preparation for the visit of Russian President Vladimir Putin to Indonesia. During President Putin's visit, the leaders of the two countries are expected to sign a strategic partnership agreement. No timetable has yet been set. In Tuesday's ministerial meeting, Minister Retno and Minister Lavrov signed a document on consultation plan between Indonesia, Russia Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the period of 2021 to 2023.
Yeah, of course, we discussed at length the cooperation in fighting the new coronavirus infection. The positions are basically the same. We are convinced, both Russia and Indonesia, that vaccines must be accessible for the entire international community, and we support respective initiatives of the United Nations, of the World Health Organization. We confirmed our readiness to closely cooperate with Indonesia, also in bilateral context, including the possibility not only of supplying vaccines, but also to discuss localization of their production on Indonesian soil. We support foreign policy of Jakarta, which is based on respect for international law.
Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed there is now a window of opportunity to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal.
On a virtual meeting hosted by China, the three leaders agreed on the need to move negotiation forward in order to get a deal as soon as possible and to avoid the risk of nuclear proliferation. On 6 rounds of talks in Vienna, member countries have been trying to resolve issues on how the United States can rejoin and how Iran can return to compliance. Then President Donald Trump pulled out the agreement in 2018, but President Joe Biden repudiated his predecessor and said the U.S. wants to return to the pact. The three leaders also talked about relations between the European Union and China, international trade, climate protection, and biodiversity, as well as cooperation in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic.
Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte pays homage to the soldiers killed in Sunday's military plane crash. Duterte placed a medal on 6 Philippine flag-draped coffins at military headquarters in Zamboanga City and gave assurances that help will be given to the soldiers' families. Earlier, officials says that 50 were killed in the military's worst air disaster. Those who boarded the C-130 in Cagayan de Oro for the flight to Sulu were Army troops, many of them newly trained recruits to be deployed in the battle against Abu Sayyaf militants in the south. It was not immediately clear what caused the crash, and investigators were looking for the C-130's cockpit CVR. Holo runway is shorter than most others in the country, making it more difficult for pilots to adjust if an aircraft misses the landing spot.
I commiserate with you. I am as sorrowful as you. And as Commander-in-Chief, ako yung pinasasaktan. I am at a loss of words so that I will end up here. Or else I will end up crying also like you.
Meanwhile, in Russia, a plane with 28 people on board went missing in the region of Kamchatka on Tuesday. The plane flying from the city of Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky to the town of Palana missed a scheduled communication, then disappeared from radar. An investigation has been launched and a search mission is underway. Media reports have suggested the plane may have crashed into the sea, but there has been no official confirmation of that yet. 2 helicopters and an airplane have been deployed to inspect the missing plane's route. The state RIA Novosti news agency reported that several ships have also been searching for the plane. An Antonov AN-26 plane with a 22-passenger and 6 crew members on board. The plane, which belonged to Kamchatka Aviation Enterprise Company, has been in operation since 1982. The company stated that the plane was technically sound. A plane with 28 people on board went missing in the Russian Far East region of Kamchatka on Tuesday. The plane was coming in for landing when contact was lost about 10 kilometers away from Palanas Airport before it disappeared from radar. A search mission is underway.
Все оперативные службы подняты по тревоге и направлены для обследования маршрута самолета. Район маршрута самолета исследуют 2 вертолета и специальный самолет. Из Паланы готовы выдвинуться спасатели к точке обнаружения воздушного судна. По предварительным данным, на борту самолета находилось 28 человек, 6 членов экипажа и 21 пассажир. Из них 2 детей до 12 лет.
Rescue workers dug through sludge and debris Tuesday. We're looking for more than 20 people who may be trapped after a mudslide ripped through a Japanese seaside resort town, killing at least 4. As of Tuesday morning, 24 people were still reportedly missing. However, officials were double-checking the number because many apartments and houses in Atami are second homes or vacation rentals. Initially, 147 people were unreachable, but officials confirmed that many were safely evacuated or were simply not at home. 4 people found dead and 25 have been rescued, including 3 who were injured. 3 Coast Guard ships and 6 military drones were backing up hundreds of troops, firefighters, and others toiling in the rain and fog. We go to Cuba now, where the core of Tropical Storm Elsa spared Cuba's capital city as it slowly moved between Havana and Mayabec provinces Monday night. Local authorities warned that while the main part of the storm is now gone, much rain and strong winds are still expected to affect Cuba's northeast, including Havana, through much of Tuesday. Elsa had spent Sunday and much of Monday sweeping parallel to Cuba's southern coast before heading on to land. Heavy rainfall caused flooding in several provinces, but spared most of the island from significant effects. As a precaution, Cuban officials had evacuated 180,000 people against the possibility of heavy flooding from a storm that already battered several Caribbean islands, killing at least 3 people. Authorities on Tuesday were carefully monitoring the air in the area where a massive explosion at a chemical factory on the outskirts of Bangkok early Monday killed at least 1 person. The explosion injured dozens and damaged homes, while prompting the evacuation of a wide area over fears of poisonous fumes and the possibility of additional denotations. Wind shifted and started blowing toward the city center, and evacuation centers were set up in a school and government office. The main blaze at the Mingdi chemical factory had been brought under control by Monday, but a tank containing the chemical styrene monomer continued to burn until early Tuesday. Authorities said 62 people had been injured, including 12 involved in firefighting and rescue efforts. 1 person had been confirmed dead. There was no immediate word on what might have caused the fire.
Myanmar military declares war on medics. Their forces have occupied public hospitals.
Medics in Myanmar became military targets since they have led a protest against coup d'etat. Junta military called this protest as a civil disobedience. Recently, some public hospitals are under military control. They also forced medic practitioners to go underground, treating wounded protesters in houses of worship, private homes, even alleyways. Before the takeover, COVID-19 cases in Myanmar were on the decline.
The doctor worries about a surge as neighboring India and Thailand struggle with a highly contagious coronavirus variant. The World Health Organization has documented more than 240 attacks on healthcare professionals, leading to dozens of injuries. The watchdog group Insecurity Insight, which analyzes conflicts around the globe, has counted at least 12 deaths.
A white flag campaign is emerging on Malaysia's social media due to the rising suicide cases linked to economic hardship. We will be back on Asia Prime after the break to talk about it.
Berbagi cerita seputar masalah kesehatan langsung dari sumbernya.
Penyumbatannya itu terletak di pembuluh darah di daerah talamus.
Ada 3 penyumbatan.
Yang satu 90%, yang 2 70%.
Selalu tensi saya itu tinggi.
Kayaknya pusing, terus keringat dingin juga.
Bagaimana cara agar kesehatan kita tetap terjaga? Apa saja solusinya? Saksikan Go Healthy di Metro TV. Pencapaian media Indonesia sepanjang tahun 2020-2021. Asian Media Awards 2020. Bronze winner. Penghargaan dari Badan Usaha Kemendikbud 2020. Penghargaan dari PT KAI 2020. Indonesia Print Media Awards 2020 and 2021. Penghargaan dari BNPB 2021. Penghargaan dari Badan Bahasa 2021. Indonesia Print Media Awards 2021. Gold winner.
Media Indonesia, a part of Media Group News.
Islam adalah rahmat bagi semesta alam. Ia memberikan petunjuk bagi manusia dalam menjalani kehidupan lewat Al-Quran.
Sejatinya kitabul ilmi perlu dipahami dan dimaknai dengan benar, lalu diimplementasikan dalam keseharian.
Saya ajak Anda memetik kebaikan Al-Quran dan memahami ilmu Islam bersama alim ulama bangsa. Saksikan Hasanah Islam setiap hari Minggu pukul 2 siang waktu Indonesia Barat.
Bagi peradaban, teknologi menjadi sahabat perubahan. Juga bagi kami. Dengan teknologi, kami memastikan setiap informasi tersampaikan dengan baik. Sehingga Anda tak hanya mendengar dan melihat, tapi juga merasakan tiap berita yang kami persembahkan. Metro TV, knowledge to elevate.
You're back on Asia Prime. The Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama is turning 86 on Tuesday, thanking his supporters and India, where he has lived since he fled his homeland in 1959.
Speaking in a video message to his supporters, he reiterated his mission to serving humanity and urged supporters to be compassionate.
I became a refugee. Now settled in India, I fully utilized India's freedom and religious harmony. So I want to assure to you the rest of my life, I fully committed this work. I really appreciate the Indian sort of concept, secular, without religion, but keep honest, karuna and ahimsa. So, dear my friend, on my birthday, this is my gift. Now many people, this is really shows love me. And many people actually, you see, loves my smile. and in spite of my old age, my face quite handsome.
We move to Malaysia, who's imposing stricter movement curbs on dozens of localities in its richest state, Selangor, and the capital, Kuala Lumpur, for 2 weeks starting Saturday as COVID-19 infections continue to rise.
Senior Minister for Security Ismail Sabri Yaakob says the decision to place 34 sub-districts in Selangor and 14 localities in Kuala Lumpur under the Enhanced Movement Control Order, or EMCO, was made after the area's reported virus cases exceeding 12.1 for every 100,000 residents. Under the 2-week order, people are restricted to their homes with only one person from each household allowed to go out to buy groceries within a 10-kilometer radius. The curfew starts at 8 p.m. Only essential services and factories producing food, medicines, and masks can operate. Malaysia reported more than 7,600 new infections Tuesday, with Selangor and Kuala Lumpur accounting for more than 62%. The White Flag Solidarity Campaign is a new movement in Malaysia during COVID-19 pandemic. The White Flag campaign emerged last week with the hashtag Bendera Putih hashtag on social media as a society response to rising suicide cases believed linked to economic hardships caused by the pandemic.
When Muhammad Nur Abdullah put a white flag Outside the window of his rented room late one night, he didn't expect the swift outpouring of public support. Born without arms, the 29-year-old lurched into desperation after a national lockdown since June 1st was further tightened in his area on Saturday, banning people from leaving their homes except to buy food and necessities. Muhammad makes a living from selling pre-packed nasi lemak, a popular Malaysian dish of coconut milk rice with condiments at a roadside stall. But that income vanished with the lockdown, and government welfare aid was insufficient to keep him afloat. He saw the White Flag campaign by chance on social media and decided to try seek help that way himself. By morning, dozens of strangers knocked on his door offering food, cash, and words of encouragement. Police in Malaysia reported 468 suicides in the first 5 months this year, an average of 4 cases a day, and up sharply from 631 for the whole of 2020.
And to further learn about the situation in Malaysia after local government imposes restrictions since Saturday, joining us from Kuala Lumpur, our correspondent Nadia Muhsin Abdullah. Good evening, Nadia.
Hello, Nadia.
Hi, good evening, Sarah and Amanda. Hi.
Hello, Nadia. We hope you're doing well. Nadia, can you please tell us more about the Bendera Putih movement on social media? Can you please tell us what is this movement about and how has it been created in Malaysia?
Well, I can see that the White Flag movement, which started last week, is a symbol of help. You know, it's like a code to indicate that the particular household need urgent assistance. You know, in this trying time, particularly, we can see a lot of Malaysians are facing difficulties. Many have lost their jobs and the source of income, which lead us to today, to this. You know, of late, as you stated in the report before, the number of suicide cases has, significantly increased, 468 within these 5 months, and it's, in average, we have like 4 to 6 cases, suicide cases daily. So in response to this, Malaysian launched this campaign to help those who are badly affected, caused by the pandemic. Many households had not earned any income for 6 weeks, and concern has been rising on security, food security going forward, and another month to come. Well, and you can see the difficulties from day to day. When ironically the movement started on the day that the government announced the new measure to soften the blow of a total lockdown was imposed on June 1st. And I think the lockdown will now, just stay as it is until the country's daily cases, fall below 4,000 cases. And the assistance that announced by the government, which cost around 150 billion ringgit or 36 billion US dollar package, will be direct transfer to the low and middle income groups, with the country's poorest households set to receive around 1,300 ringgit or 312 US dollar each. But this assistance that provided by the government will not be dispersed until August, where else people in need require immediate help, immediate action. They can't just wait any longer. There's no food on the table. There's no food to feed the family. So that is where the whole movement starts to kick off.
You were saying almost 500 suicides just this year. This is definitely an alarming statistics. Now, it's really encouraging to see communities coming together to try and help the situation. Now, this White Flag movement, how many are participating? Are we talking about every neighborhood in Kuala Lumpur? And is it viral only in Kuala Lumpur or also in other cities as well?
Well, this actually started not in Kuala Lumpur. This is the first White Flag that we can see. It happened in Johor, a state down south. And for the first few days, it's kind of hard, to see the flag being raised in the area. Maybe because some of us still don't know about the campaign, or some just feeling, shy to ask for help. And as the days goes by, we can see more and more white flag being raised. But it's not like you can see like a sea of white flag in certain areas, because once you raise your flag, the NGOs or any organization that, or the communities, especially neighbors who come to help, will definitely, take the immediate action, and you have to bring down the flag. So, but some even set up a food bank in the compound, or petrol station also take alternative and measures. They've set up the food bank in the compound so that people can just come and take whatever they need for their household. I mean, it's really amazing and heartwarming to see that how much we actually care for one another.
All right, Nadia, this is also a symbol of unity for Malaysia, and we can see the voices on social media. Are there any prominent figures voicing the needs of those in need in Malaysia due to the COVID-19 hardships?
Okay, well, this movement is actually from the people to the people. Once it started and began to gain more and more attention, all the NGOs, supermarkets, from the supermarket celebrities and members of the community, especially neighbors, start to, join the movement. Well, if you want to talk about prominent figures, well, of course, we can see, especially the opposition lawmakers started to show the support on this, and some of the politicians from the government side also, be participating in this. But some of them have been accused to use this movement for their political mileage, by trying to take credit from the movement, which received backlashes from the public. Those in power have been criticized for trying to make this movement as their initiative when they offer help to the parliamentary areas.
Right. I mean, of course, this is very heartwarming to see all different elements of society coming together to try and help each other during this hardship. But what I would like to know is how is the government picking up on these movements? Have they commented, or have they done more actions to help so far?
If you want to talk about the government, many have hailed the white flag movement as show of unity and solidarity, but none of us agree. And as for the government side, if you want to say from the Putrajaya administration itself, they didn't come up with any feedback or statement, but a lawmaker from an Islamic party, which is a part of the ruling coalition, attracted public anger when he told people to pray to God instead of, waving a white flag in surrender. In his own words, he said that why you guys must raise the flag, instead of, raising your hand and pray to God for help. And of course, it received a very bad criticism. And a state chief minister also slammed the campaign as propaganda against Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin's government. Well, in several states in Malaysia, people was not allowed to raise the flag and been asked to bring down the flag. Well, for example, the Kedah state government, for instance, said it would not aid put up such flag. The chief minister was quoted as saying that the government would only channel food aid to those who had officially requested phoning in to the local disaster control centers. And yeah, that is their response, I guess. They are representing the government.
All right. And Nadia, speaking of government, there is also a new trend on social media, which is the Black Flag hashtag, or Black Flag movement, with even Anwar Ibrahim tweeting 3 black flags on his Twitter account. Can you please tell us more? What is this movement about, the Black Flag?
Okay. Well, over the weekend, the anti-government protesters launched a Black Flag campaign. As you say, that opposition lawmakers and others have been putting up Black Flags on social media. So basically, their demand for 3 things. First one, the Prime Minister to resign, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin to resign, and the second one, for an end to the emergency that be enforced now, and the third one is for Parliament to be open. Well, police are investigating this campaign for sedition, public mischief and misuse of network facilities for offensive purposes. Well, Prime Minister, as you know, Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin took power in 2019 after political maneuvers that brought down the former reformist government. He has been facing intense challenges from the opposition. And in fact, he's facing challenge from within his own coalition, where support for his leadership cannot be tested, with Parliament as still being suspended. Well, after receiving pressure from the opposition, the public, and also recently from the palace by the king, Leading finally announced that the Parliament sitting will be reopened on July 26th. So I guess we just have to wait and see what will happen next.
So the black flag is a political movement, while you have the white flag movement and the black flag movement happening simultaneously. Now, we want to know, what about the restriction itself in Malaysia, the MCO, or the Movement Control Order? How is it going so far? Has there been any easement on it? And what about Malaysia's national vaccination program as a way to contain the virus of these new variants in the country?
Okay. Well, unfortunately, no. Well, after more than a month, we are instead enforcing a stricter measure. More areas are now under the EMCO. EMCO is enhanced movement control order, especially in KL and Selangor, which recorded a high number of cases. The number of cases are significantly high. The number of cases recorded like more than 7,600 cases. Well, the government previously announced that restriction will only be eased once the number of cases drops under 400 cases daily. I think that's a long way to go. And, well, as for yesterday, we talked about the vaccination program. The health minister announced that more than 2.6 million people, or 8% of the Malaysian population, have completed 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccination. The COVID-19 Immunization Task Force, the ITF, targets that 10% of the country's population, or 3.2 million people, will be fully vaccinated by middle of this month. Well, Malaysia is expected to receive a contribution of 500,000 doses of Sinovac vaccine from by the middle of this month. Also, thereby they will increase the vaccine supply and vaccination capacity this month and beyond. Well, so far the country had received a donation of 1 million doses of AstraZeneca AZ vaccine from Japan last Thursday, and to add on top of that, another 1 million doses of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine from the United States on Monday. So the ministry said that the next 3 months will be the busiest and most crucial period for Malaysian immunization program, as the country set up to receive a large part of vaccine supply while it ramps up vaccination capacity across the country. Well, at the moment, the average daily vaccination rate for June came in at almost 170,000 doses. And it's surpassing the targeted 150,000 shots daily. So let's just hope the coming month will, we see a very positive progress.
That's a good news on the vaccination front. Thank you so much for the updates, Nadia, and we urge you to please stay safe. That was our correspondent, Nadia Mohsin Abdullah, reporting live from Kuala Lumpur. I guess the problem is universal. Every country is trying to find the best way to curb the spread of this.
If Malaysia has the MCO, we have the PPKM Darurat, or the Emergency Public Activity Restrictions, because the COVID-19 knows no boundaries. It can affect anyone, and it even has affected the Duchess of Cambridge, which we will be talking more about after the break, where Prince William hosted a big tea at Buckingham Palace with the Duchess of Cambridge unable to attend, as she is self-isolating after a contact tested positive for the coronavirus. We'll be right back after the break.
Berbagi cerita seputar masalah kesehatan langsung dari sumbernya.
Penyumbatannya itu terletak di pembuluh darah di daerah talamus.
Ada 3 penyumbatan.
Yang satu 90%, yang dua 70%.
Selalu tensi saya itu tinggi.
Kayaknya pusing, terus keringat dingin juga.
Bagaimana cara agar kesehatan kita tetap terjaga? Apa saja solusinya? Saksikan Go Healthy di Metro TV. Media Indonesia, lebih dari sekadar surat kabar, hadir melalui beragam platform, cetak, e-paper, dan online. Dengan program di media sosial yang kuat dalam konten, dan pengembangan bisnis yang terarah. Dapatkan informasi lengkap melalui 51 tahun media Indonesia, Reka Cipta Indonesia.
Kenapa sih kita harus berinvestasi di PIK 2? Ada 3 alasan utama. Yang pertama, lokasi PIK 2. Alasan kedua, setiap orang yang membeli PIK 2 dianggap sebagai pemegang saham. Membeli produk PIK 2 memang selalu untung karena harga perdana PIK 2 50% di bawah harga market. Alasan yang ketiga, fasilitas. Di mana fasilitas yang tersedia di PIK 2 jauh lebih banyak dari real estate manapun juga.
Kita semua tahu dan merasakan, perekonomian Indonesia saat ini masih menghadapi berbagai tantangan. Pandemi pun membuat situasi kita semakin tidak mudah. Kita bertahan seberdaya apa yang kita bisa. Memanfaatkan peluang apa saja dan aset yang paling kecil pun jadi sangat bernilai buat kita. Ketahui arah dan kebijakan dalam membangkitkan ekonomi kita bersama saya dan narasumber paling kompeten hanya di Economic Challenges.
Breaking News Metro TV. Gempa bermagnitudo 6,1 mengguncang sebagian wilayah.
Persija Jakarta sukses menjuarai Piala Menpora 2021.
Pimpinan Media Group News bertemu Wakil Presiden Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin.
Pemirsa, setelah viral di media sosial, 32 warga negara India ditolak masuk Indonesia.
Pemirsa, Metro TV memberikan santunan kepada anak yatim piatu di Yayasan Masjid At-Taqwa.
Dengarkan Metro TV di radio, more than just news. Streaming sekarang di metrotvnews.com dan medcom.id.
Welcome back to Asia Prime. King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands arrived in Germany on Monday for a 3-day visit, which was delayed from last year because of the coronavirus pandemic. The royal couple were received by President Frank-Walter Steinmeier at his Bellevue Palace. Earlier Monday, they were greeted with a 21-gun salute after landing in wet weather at Berlin's airport at the beginning of Willem Alexander's first state visit to Germany since he became king in 2013. They are expected to visit Berlin's Brandenburg Gate later in the day. A meeting with Chancellor Angela Merkel also is on the agenda during this week's visit. Willem Alexander and Maxima were last in Germany in 2019 when they visited the state of Brandenburg surrounding Berlin. The king has some German roots. His father, Prince Klaus, was German-born. Filmmaker Richard Donner, who helped create the modern superhero blockbuster with 1978 Superman and mastered the buddy comedy with the Lethal Weapon franchise, has died. He was 91, and Donner died on Monday in Los Angeles, USA. Donner gained fame with his first feature in 1976, The Omen. A then unheard-of offer followed $1 million to direct 1978 Superman. Donner channeled his love of the character into making the film, repeatedly facing off with producers over the need for special effects that would convince the audience that a superhero could really fly. In the title role, Donner cast Christopher Reeve, who was associated with Superman for the rest of his life. By the 21st century, the genre was dominating the box office in the US and thriving overseas. The heads of Marvel Studios and DC Entertainment, producers of most today's superhero fare, both worked for Donner when they were starting out in Hollywood. From the United Kingdom, where the Duke of Cambridge hosted a big tea at Buckingham Palace Monday for staff of the NHS, the UK's National Health Service, in his role as patron of NHS Charities Together. Earlier, the Duke attended a service of Thanksgiving at St. Paul's Cathedral in honor of the NHS to celebrate the organization's 73rd birthday. The Duchess of Cambridge was unable to attend either event as she is self-isolating after a contact tested positive for the coronavirus. Under current British rules, contacts of confirmed COVID-19 cases must quarantine at home for 10 days. The palace says Kate, who is 39, does not have any symptoms. Both Kate and William received first doses of the COVID-19 vaccines in May. Cecily Strong and Michael Keegan-Key play a couple trapped in a 1950s musical after taking a wrong turn on a hike. The series plays off all the cliches that one might find in the genre, but done lovingly, just like a teasing a family member. The cast of town characters who spends their days breaking into dance include Broadway stars such as Kristen Chenoweth, Alan Cumming, Aaron Tveit, Dove Cameron, Jane Krakowski, and Martin Short. The series creator Chinko Paul says the production lucked out when it came to finding available singing and dancing talent because of the pandemic.
We should bail on the hike. I didn't mean us in general. I just meant the hike.
You don't want to make our relationship better?
Our relationship is fine.
What's that?
Church bells? Schmigadoon?
Welcome to our little town,
where friends are all you'll meet.
Must be something they do for tourists.
Hey, everyone!
Hey there, Pete!
Woo! Can we go now?
Already?
What?
We can't leave. It's like magic. We're in an actual musical.
What? Are you trying to tell me that you've never heard of corn pudding? She's never heard of corn pudding!
Oh, no. It's a song. You just started another song. Corn pudding, corn pudding, corn pudding, corn pudding, corn pudding, corn pudding. Can we opt out of this?
It would be totally hellish to be trapped in a musical. You see, there's so many reasons. For instance, if I was trapped in a musical with my wife, it would be doubly bad because she has no ability to keep a tune, to hold a tune. She sings like a goat, so that would be particularly bad. But people in musicals seem to be exuberant, and I prefer a much more pessimistic outlook on life. So I think living in a musical would drive me crazy if anyone were to say to me, "And good morning, Mr. Seinfeld." No, it's Sonnenfeld. Oh, when did you change your name? No, I didn't change my name. So I would truly hate it.
I feel like weirdly, I sort of exist voluntarily in a world that feels very like ridiculous and removed from reality. So if I found myself in this town, I feel like I'd be like, oh my God, I found my people. Like it feels very like, I mean, I think I probably swear too much to belong to Schmigadoon. Like I think I'm not really like their type of person that they would want. I would be considered like riffraff, but I would love to be there and be a part of it because it feels more natural for my disposition.
Yeah, I think that definitely helped because everybody was available. And so we really were able to get our dream cast. I mean, it is a dream come true, all these people. And for everybody, it was really a labor of love, especially during this time when Broadway and other theaters were shut down, for them to get to sing and get to dance and do all these things. It was really delightful to be part of it.
We're stuck here forever.
You're just going to give up? We're smart. We found our way out of IKEA. We'll find a way out of here.
Ladies, can I get a cackle?
Now, news from the fashion world. On Monday, it was the first day for the Fall-Winter 2021-22 Haute Couture shows in Paris, France, a season when most houses opted to continue with digital shows and presentations. However, a handful of fashion houses ventured back into the real world after more than a year away. Dior was first on the official calendar to welcome an in-person audience, hosting 2 shows Monday afternoon. The show took place at Dior's favorite venue, a temporary structure in the garden of the Musée Rodin. Street photographers jostled one another outside the front gate, while invited photographers gathered at the photo call inside. Guests greeted one another with air kisses, and several foreign accents were proof of a return to overseas travel. Guests wore masks and had their temperatures taken at the door, while photographers and cameramen had to show proof of a negative COVID test before crowding together on the podium. Seats on the benches were spaced farther apart than usual, although that was quickly ignored, especially in the front row. Croatian-American actor Goran Vishnik's latest movie, Fatima, is a tale of love, acceptance, and the power of faith based on real-life events. In 1917, outside the parish of Fatima in Portugal, a 10-year-old girl and her 2 younger cousins witnessed multiple visitations of the Virgin Mary, who tells them that only prayer and suffering will bring an end to the First World War. Now, the sighting spread across the country, inspiring religious pilgrims to flock to the site who hope to witness a miracle.
If someone were to say to you, why what happened all those years ago had to have happened to you, how would you respond?
Because it was necessary.
And do you have any regrets?
I haven't done enough to please my mother.
Which mother?
Every time I read the name of one of our boys who lost his life, I have great admiration for them. They defend our progressive ideas that will free our country from religious superstitions.
Who are you?
I come from heaven.
Who are you talking to? What do you want from us? I can see her now.
It is a sin making lies up.
That is true, Mama. She was as real as you are.
Why would the Mother of God choose you? What's so special about you?
I mean, in every person's life, it's about growth. You know, it's about understanding. We're trying to achieve better understanding of the world around us. You know, if there's something mysterious, I mean, you know, when I was a kid, you know, UFOs were like a joke. You know, it was kind of like very, you know, okay, only, you know, cuckoo people kind of think about it. Now, a couple of days ago, Pentagon kind of wrote the official report and you accepted the fact they don't know what the hell that is. So I think the humanity is going towards, you know, we're just trying to understand and take more seriously everything. You know, we're just trying to, you know, I like to think we're all trying to be better people, better human beings, and then things are going to happen. So when you think about this story, no matter from which angle you're coming at it, it's a positive message.
When is this going to end?
All you need to say now is, I made everything up.
I'm so sorry you couldn't see her.
Faith begins at the edges of understanding.
July 3rd marks 50 years since the death of Jim Morrison. We have the news after the break on Asia Prime.
Kesehatan yang sudah tidak optimal tentu akan berakibat pada kualitas hidup Anda. Ilmu pengetahuan yang semakin berkembang dan teknologi yang semakin maju membawa sejumlah inovasi di bidang medis.
Setelah diperiksa lab, gulanya tinggi. Curiga, hati-hati. Ini adalah salah satu tanda masalah pada jantung.
Jangan anggap enteng yang namanya stroke. Halo pemirsa, apa kabar? Senang sekali saya Tantri Murdopo dan juga Kak Ronald bisa kembali menjumpai Anda di Go Healthy. Cara tepat, hidup sehat.
Kenapa sih kita harus berinvestasi di PIK 2? Ada 3 alasan utama. Yang pertama, lokasi PIK 2. Alasan kedua, setiap orang yang membeli PIK 2 dianggap sebagai pemegang saham. Membeli produk PIK 2 memang selalu untung karena harga perdana PIK 2 50% di bawah harga market. Alasan yang ketiga, fasilitas. Di mana fasilitas yang tersedia di PIK 2 jauh lebih banyak dari real estate manapun juga.
Fluid kick-off berbunyi, berita sepak bola paling panas sepekan terakhir segera dimulai. Ya, terjadi head-to-head di antara narasumber. Otak-atik obrolan membuat suasana semakin seru. Dan terjadi offside, saudara-saudara. Kita review dulu video dan info yang sedang viral. Tendangan baru saja dilakukan. Umpan closing, ya dan gol! Berita terlengkap seputar sepak bola dalam dan luar negeri dalam 30 menit. Soccer Time. Setiap Jumat jam 10 malam.
Pandemi bikin kita susah.
Semua mencoba bertahan hidup dengan hati yang gelisah.
Kita sampai di hari ini
Karena kita saling melindungi.
Ada yang berjuang paling depan.
Ada yang setia melindungi.
Harapan-harapan itu sekarang nyata.
Vaksin untuk Indonesia bersama SLAM. Setiap Jumat jam 8 malam.
July 3rd marks 50 years since the death of Jim Morrison. Meanwhile, Universal takes top 3 spots at box office, leading with F9. And the star-studded lineup of a Capital Fourth concert. Here are our top entertainment news.
Saturday, July 3rd, 2021 marks the 50th anniversary of Jim Morrison's death. The poet and lead singer of rock band The Doors died aged 27 of heart failure in his bathtub in Paris, France. Since that time, his grave at Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris has been a pilgrimage site for fans. Morrison, who was also known as the Lizard King, was born in Melbourne, Florida in 1943. In 1965, he co-founded The Doors with keyboardist Raymond Zarek. Together with guitarist Robbie Krieger and drummer John Densmore, they made 6 studio albums in just 54 months in the late 1960s and early 70s. These include self-titled debut The Doors, Strange Days, and Morrison Hotel. On the morning of July 3rd, first responders found him dead in his apartment's bathtub. When the police arrived, his girlfriend Pamela Corson told them he had been having severe coughing fits that night and started coughing up blood and vomiting at some point. No autopsy was performed, and when the Doors manager Bill Siddons arrived in Paris a day later, Jim had been placed into a coffin, which was already sealed. This led many people to alternative theories, including one placing the death of Morrison in a nightclub bathroom where he allegedly overdosed on heroin that was too pure. The lack of physical evidence and the fact that most people who saw Morrison that fateful night are dead continue to fuel the mystery 50 years on.
This is 1989, my first July 3rd. This man... No white flag and no treaty.
So how do y'all want to play?
Although the box office is yet to fully recover from the pandemic, at least one studio has good reason to celebrate this 4th of July weekend. That's in the United States, of course. Universal Pictures currently has the top 3 films at the domestic box office, with F9, The Boss Baby Family Business, and The Forever Purge, according to studio estimates Sunday. As expected, the Fast and Furious sequel, F9, maintained the top spot in its second weekend in North American theaters. The film added an estimated $24 million over the weekend and is projected to take in $32.7 million by the end of Monday. bringing its domestic total to $125.8 million worldwide. F9 will likely surpass the $500 million mark on Monday. Let's hope so. Now, although the three films may share a studio name, they're also all different genres with different audience bases. A PG-13 action flick, a narrated horror, and a PG-rated family film.
They were best friends.
Almost half of the audience for The Boss Baby 2, for example, was 12 and under, while 64% of the audience for The Forever Purge was in the coveted 18 to 34 range and also very ethnically diverse. The successes are also notable for what they were up against outside of theaters. This was a weekend where there were quite a few at-home streaming options as well, with Amazon Prime Video's Chris Pratt blockbuster The Tomorrow War among them. And the Universal films accounted for over 77% of the total projected grosses this weekend. But the rain likely won't continue for long. Next weekend, here we go, Disney and Marvel's Black Widow hits theaters. That ought to be good. And last but not least, Sunday, 4th of July 2021, Happy Independence Day to all Americans out there, marks the 245th birthday of the United States of America and the 41st Capital 4th celebration. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the annual extravaganza, usually a live concert held on the U.S. Capitol's West Lawn in Washington, D.C., this year consisted of a pre-recorded show with a live fireworks presentation. Recording artist and actor Vanessa Williams hosted the program and performed from Washington, D.C. Other featured artists include Alan Jackson, Gladys Knight, Pentatonix, Train, and more, as well as the National Symphony Orchestra under the direction of conductor Jack Everly. A Capital 4th, a July 4th television tradition on PBS, aired the same day Sunday last year from 8 to 9:30 p.m., as well as on the American Forces Network. The program can also be heard over national public radio stations and streaming on Facebook and YouTube. It will also be available as video on demand for a limited time, July 4th to July 18, 2021. That ought to be something.
And definitely watching concerts at home is a nice way to pass the time for those who have the privilege to work from home.
Especially while waiting for the independence from this pandemic. But until then, we still have to wear our mask and follow the health protocols. And
be patient.
Be patient and be disciplined.
Exactly. And that concludes tonight's Asia Prime. We are live for Metro Globe Network from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm Amanda Chininta.
And I'm Sarah Wayne. Thank you for watching and have a great night.
Metro TV.
Kesehatan itu adalah hal penting yang harus kita jaga loh.
Saat ini, teknologi pun ikut mendukung kesehatan.
Supaya semakin sehat dan bugar.
Bersama para pakar kesehatan, kami mengulas kesehatan yang berbalut teknologi.
Simak Go Healthy di Metro TV.
Karena corona masih ada, terus pakai masker.
Jangan lupa cuci tangan pakai sabun. Terus jaga jarak di mana saja. Hindari juga kerumunan biar aman. Batasi kegiatan di luar rumah. Jangan kendor protokol kesehatan. Vaksin untuk Indonesia.
Indonesia memiliki potensi ekonomi syariah terlengkap.
Bahkan kita diprediksi menjadi kiblat keuangan dan ekonomi syariah dunia.
Seperti apa ekonomi syariah Indonesia?
Bagaimana kita bisa mengubah dunia lewat ekonomi syariah?
Saya Zakia Arfan dengan ekonom sekaligus ahli dan praktisi keuangan syariah.
Saya akan membahasnya bersama narasumber terkemuka hanya dalam Syariah Economic Talk bersama saya Gunawan Yasni setiap Kamis jam 8 malam di Metro TV.
Anda menyaksikan Headline News pukul 1 waktu Indonesia Barat. Pemirsa, Kimia Farma Apotek menyatakan pasokan obat-obatan yang dinilai potensial dalam penanganan COVID-19 aman selama 2 hingga 3 bulan ke depan. Hal ini dinyatakan Direktur Operasional Kimia Farma Apotek Abdul Aziz. Dia mengatakan pihaknya sudah mengamankan stok obat-obatan tersebut. Selain itu, ia memastikan jika harga obat-obatan tersebut dijual sesuai dengan harga eceran tertinggi atau HET yang telah ditetapkan oleh Kementerian Kesehatan. Namun Aziz menegaskan masyarakat yang hendak membeli obat tersebut harus berdasarkan resep dokter.
Kita menjamin ketersediaannya bagaimanapun caranya. Kimia Farma Apotek sebagai anak perusahaan dari Kimia Farma Tbk ya memberikan jaminan ketersediaan produk-produk khususnya produk COVID dan suplemen. Dan terkait dengan harga ya kami berkomitmen tidak akan pernah melebihi dari harga eceran tertinggi yang sudah ditetapkan oleh Kementerian Kesehatan.
Polda Metro Jaya membentuk tim untuk menyelidiki adanya kenaikan harga obat-obatan di tengah pandemi COVID-19. Dari hasil penyelidikan di Treskrimsus Polda Metro Jaya mengamankan pemilik toko obat di Kampung Melayu, Jakarta Timur yang menjual ivermectin jauh di atas tarif eceran tertinggi yang ditentukan oleh pemerintah. Penyidik menemukan toko obat berinisial SJ di kawasan Kampung Melayu, Jakarta Timur yang menjual obat ivermectin dengan harga Rp475.000 per bungkus. Selain mengamankan pemilik toko yang berinisial R, petugas juga melakukan penutupan sementara toko obat tersebut. Ikuti berita terkini melalui metrotvnews.com dan Headline News berikutnya akan hadir 1 jam mendatang.
Islam adalah rahmat bagi semesta alam. Ia memberikan petunjuk bagi manusia dalam menjalani kehidupan lewat Al-Quran.
Sejatinya kitabul ilmi perlu dipahami dan dimaknai dengan benar, lalu diimplementasikan dalam keseharian.
Saya ajak Anda memetik kebaikan Al-Quran dan memahami ilmu Islam bersama alim ulama bangsa. Saksikan Hasanah Islam setiap hari Minggu pukul 2 siang waktu Indonesia Barat.
Selamat malam pemirsa, Anda menyaksikan Prime Talk, Tajam Mendalam. Saya Wahyu Wibowo. Pemirsa, pandemi COVID-19 kian mengkhawatirkan. Rumah sakit rujukan dan juga tenaga kesehatan kewalahan. Terpaksa mereka yang positif COVID-19 harus menjalani isolasi mandiri meski berisiko terjadi perburukan kondisi kesehatan. Layanan medis virtual atau telemedis gratis menjadi jurus baru dari Kementerian Kesehatan agar mereka yang isoman maksimal dalam perawatan. Lalu apa upaya Menteri Kesehatan Budi Gunadi Sadikin agar telemedis efektif digunakan oleh pasien isoman? Sebelum membahasnya, kami akan membahas bagaimana peran infrastruktur digital dalam menggerakkan potensi ekonomi di tingkat desa. Inilah Prime Talk selengkapnya.
Kementerian Komunikasi dan Informatika melalui Badan Aksesabilitas Teknologi Informasi terus melakukan percepatan transformasi digital di pedesaan. Salah satunya program kolaborasi dengan Kementerian Desa dan Badan Usaha Milik Desa. Direktur Utama Bakti Kominfo Anang Latif mengatakan, percepatan infrastruktur digital merupakan arahan langsung dari Presiden Joko Widodo. Salah satunya ialah menyediakan akses internet di wilayah desa agar terbangun ekosistem ekonomi digital di tingkat desa. Pada tahun 2020 hingga 2022, Bakti Kominfo akan membangun BTS 4G di 7.904 wilayah yang tergolong 3T dan 3.435 titik non-3T. Bakti Kominfo mengajak seluruh pihak terkait untuk berkolaborasi dalam pembangunan infrastruktur digital di tingkat desa.
Tentunya kami tidak bisa jalan sendiri, kami harus melibatkan secara aktif juga rekan-rekan kami di Kementerian Desa dan PTTT ini. Juga kementerian KL atau lembaga lainnya, misalnya itu pariwisata, misalnya itu Kementerian Pertanian dan lain-lainnya. Disinilah saya kira dalam konteks transformasi digital, kolaborasi untuk semua sektor, termasuk mitra-mitra kita di daerah, pemerintah daerah ya, maupun masyarakat, komunitas masyarakat lokal setempat ini menjadi penting ya.
Sementara itu, Dirjen Percepatan Pembangunan Daerah Tertinggal Eko Sri Haryanto membuka kemungkinan pemanfaatan dana desa untuk mendukung program infrastruktur digital.
Kita juga sudah ada policy yang terkait dengan bagaimana diperbolehkan dana desa untuk membangun tentang sarana-prasarana yang terkait dengan telekomunikasi dan informasi. Kayak gitu. Lalu juga bagaimana memperkuat ekonomi, bagaimana tentang penyiapan talenta gitu ya.
Besarnya potensi ekonomi desa membuat pemerintah terus mendorong para pelaku ekonomi desa masuk ke platform digital. Saat ini kontribusi ekonomi berbasis pedesaan baru sebesar 21%. Dengan adanya percepatan transformasi digital, diharapkan semakin banyak badan usaha milik desa, UMKM desa, hingga koperasi yang go digital. Tim Liputan Metro TV.
Ya, untuk membahas hal ini kami akan tanyakan langsung kepada Direktur Layanan Telekomunikasi dan Informatika Badan Usaha Bakti Kominfo, Dia Anugrah Febriansa, dan juga Sekjen Kementerian Desa dan PDT, Taufik Majid. Selamat malam, Bapak-Bapak sudah bergabung keduanya dari luar studio.
Selamat malam, Mas Wahyu.
Baik, saya ingin ke Pak Odi terlebih dahulu. Pak Odi, BUMDes, BUMDes, dan juga UMKM ini kan perlu ditingkatkan lagi keterlibatannya dalam proses percepatan transformasi digital. Presiden sendiri yang mencanangkan. Jadi sejauh mana perkembangannya hingga saat ini, Pak?
Baik, jadi memang sesuai dengan arahan dari Pak Presiden bahwa percepatan pembangunan infrastruktur digital dan penyediaan akses internet di 12.500-an desa atau kelurahan serta di beragam titik layanan publik adalah satu mandat yang kami lakukan dan penyediaannya sedang berlangsung sampai dengan beberapa tahun ke depan. Dan kami menginginkan adanya peran yang aktif dari desa selaku pelaku usaha melalui BUMDes maupun UMKM di tingkat desa, tidak hanya sebagai objek tapi juga subjek. Sebagai pelaku yang memanfaatkan transformasi digital untuk meningkatkan bidang-bidang usaha atau unit usaha di tingkat desa yang bisa mensuplai juga sampai ke kota. Mempermudah jembatan komunikasi, membuka peluang, dan juga memberikan harapan bahwa ekosistem digital itu tumbuh juga dari desa.
Jadi rencana strategisnya apa dalam proses transformasi digital di tingkat desa ini, Pak Odi?
Jadi langkah pertama, kami memang mempunyai program-program infrastruktur yang berorientasi kepada akses yang sifatnya adalah trigger, Mas Wahyu. Jadi diharapkan trigger ini bisa memberikan layanan akses kepada daerah atau wilayah yang secara komersial itu tidak menarik untuk dibangun dan disediakan oleh penyelenggara telekomunikasi. Sebabnya diantaranya karena jumlah penduduk yang terlalu sedikit, kemudian kondisi geografis yang sulit dijangkau sehingga biaya tinggi, lalu belum tentu juga ketersediaan listrik untuk mencatu alat dan perangkat telekomunikasi, sehingga revenue yang nanti akan didapat itu jauh lebih kecil dibanding biaya operasionalnya, sehingga tidak mendapatkan profit. Nah, diharapkan dengan adanya trigger melalui program kami yang sifatnya akses, maka akan terbentuk demand-demand yang hadir di desa. Dan pada saatnya demand ini memerlukan kapasitas dan coverage lebih luas, maka disitulah peran dari penyelenggara telekomunikasi bisa hadir dan menyediakan layanan yang lebih baik lagi.
Ya, oke. Jadi prasarananya sudah dibangun sebenarnya, tetapi yang saya ingin tanyakan dari Pak Taufik mungkin, seberapa siap para pelaku UMKM di desa memanfaatkan potensi ekonomi digital ini?
Baik, terima kasih. Saat ini data yang ada di tempat kami kurang lebih ada 40 ribuan badan usaha milik desa yang tersebar di seluruh penjuru tanah air, di seluruh Indonesia. Nah, ini menjadi satu potensi yang sangat besar dan omsetnya di total secara kumulatif kurang lebih omset Bumdes saat ini per tahun itu ada kurang lebih di atas hampir 3 triliun rupiah. Nah, ini belum sampai pada kita masuk pada sebuah ekosistem digital, satu landscape yang tidak bisa kita tawar. Nah, ini akan berlipat-lipat kali kalau badan usaha milik desa ini masuk dalam platform digital. Nah, karena itu kita senang sekali dengan pencanangan oleh Bapak Presiden langsung untuk transformasi digital di desa. Kemudian ada kemitraan kita dengan Kominfo. Kita juga mengakses di internet service provider, ya, bagaimana pengembangan produk unggulan desa. Kita bisa membuka outlet pemasaran dan sekaligus menginformasikan produk-produk unggulan yang ada di desa ini sangat luar biasa sekali. Dan kita berharap semuanya bisa boarding, bisa masuk dalam platform digital. Nah, yang perlu kami tambahkan di sini dengan Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja, nah ini Bumdes menjadi badan hukum. Nah, karena itu sekarang dalam proses 40.000 itu didaftar